Basically, today I want to motivate you to start meditating, just because it's helped me so much. And the first thing that pops into my mind right now is that I'm able to do this, to talk to you without like feeling as if I want to jump out of that window. Because like my natural state is extremely introverted. Like I really struggle even with the most simple social interactions. I used to. Nowadays it's a lot more better. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it goes. I even have a YouTube channel nowadays, which if you told me like 5 years ago, I would say like, no way I could do something like that. But the biggest thing that meditation helped me with is getting out of a 5-year depression that I was really stuck into. So what I do nowadays is I'm a strength coach. I have a website, it's called Homemade Muscle. And the basic gist of it is that I help people get strong and lean without going to the gym. So that's the main idea behind it. I write books about it. It's my passion. You know, I could finally do this after years of doing jobs that I hated. As Ellie's is all about passion and all that. And another thing about me is that I have one leg less than most people, which this is basically a prosthetic leg, as you can see. So that's basically my motivating factor for my project. And it's also cool sometimes because now sometimes that as well maybe. But like with kids, what I love about kids is that especially boys, sometimes they will spot it and they'll be like, what is that? 'Cause like they don't understand what it is exactly. So I'm like, listen, I'm gonna tell you something, but it's gonna be between us, me and you. I'm half man and half robot. So like with boys, like they're really excited about that, and they're like, but that's between us, right? So he's gonna say yes, but like after 5 minutes, he's gonna bring like a bunch of friends and tell them about RoboLeg, and then so yeah, so that's one cool way I can also use it. And back to my previous point, the thing that it helped me most, meditation, was getting out of my 5-year depression. Because I had my accident when I was 23 and my leg got pretty messed up. I didn't lose it right then. It took like 5 years of basically 13 operations and just me basically having to lay in bed. Best case scenario, I would walk with crutches sometimes. So it was like a really long recovery, sort of reconstruction process, which didn't work in the end. And yeah, I was basically used all my life to deal with my problems through exercise, through movement, because that was my passion my whole life. So like if I would struggle with emotions and things like that, I would literally run away from them. Because what I would do was, I was stressed or unhappy or this and that, I would go for a 12-kilometer run in the mountains where I grew up. So, you know, like once you do that, like your body's so pumped with endorphins and you forget about your problems. But that's not a healthy way to deal with your problems. I mean, it's not that bad. I guess you can, there are other ways, like you can deal with like drugs and that. So exercise is kind of better, but it's not really, it's temporary. You're not solving it. You don't learn how to use your mind to deal with your problems. So, you know, that caught up with me because until I was 23, that's how I dealt with my problems. And now I'm stuck in bed and I can run away. So basically my mind was completely untrained on how to deal with these problems. And that was the opportunity for my mind to kick my ass. So, you know, you're pinned in bed and yeah, now you're gonna suffer. You can't run away. So that's when I realized that you should learn to deal with your problems in more healthy ways. So I tried a lot of things to get out of that depression. Nothing worked. And at some point, a friend of my mother's told me, like, why don't you try meditation? At that point, like the frame I was coming from was meditation, like that's kind of too hippie-ish for me. Like sort of like, you know, Cartman from South Park said, like, you know, what's that heavy shit? Like, I'm not doing that. But at some point I was just so tired and disappointed and just tired of being sad and all that I was like, okay, let's try this. So I started meditating and I get hooked. Like I'm like holy shit, this is awesome. So I started doing it for 3 weeks. And suddenly I'm happy again. Like I'm really completely over 5 years of depression, which for me was amazing.
It was before the decision to cut off your leg.
Yeah, so I'll get back to that later. Basically, that's the biggest benefit for me, the biggest thing that meditation helped me with. And that's another thing I'll try to promote a lot with my project. So, it's also about the fitness and this and that and training your body, but I also try to promote training the mind through meditation. A lot of people will come and tell me like, okay, like how long do I have to do this to see the benefits? Like we're in this Western world, so you want how much time, how much benefits, you want numbers. And it's funny because sometimes I'll have a person tell me like, I meditated for a week like you told me, and like my life is not different. And like for me, that's the equivalent of like a really obese person training and dieting for a week and coming to me and like, like I train and I diet and like, I don't look like Brad Pitt or Angelina or like, it's not like it takes more time, it builds up. So, but still, because people like numbers, I would say try it for 20 days at least, 5 to 15 minutes. Start with 5 minutes and build it up. And how better can your life become? Well, I would say in 3 weeks, you can see a difference of 10 to up to 20%. So like your life improving just through 15 minutes of meditation by 10 to 20%. For me, that's a pretty awesome return of investment because I've tried a lot of things and none of them improve your life that fast. So another thing to remember is that meditation is not a cure, but it's the foundation on top of which you should start building other stuff if you want to improve your life. So, for example, you start with meditation, but that's not the cure. You have to build other healthy habits. That's how I got out of my depression. It wasn't that meditation like cured me, but it gave me that emotional grounding and stability to build on top of it other habits. So, what other habits should you build on top of that? I always start with exercise and nutrition. Why? Well, it's kind of what I do, but it's also the most direct way we can affect our body's chemistry, because our body's chemistry is essential. If you want to be happy and your body's chemistry is not balanced, that's going to be really difficult. There's studies, for example, showing that exercise and nutrition are a lot more efficient than the most powerful antidepressants. I think that's awesome. And I think, why take all those chemicals if that's the case? So those are like the basics, I would say, for someone interested to start meditation. Another question I get a lot is like, okay, what if I do more of it? Like you do a lot of it, like what are more of the benefits that you can reap? Like what if I want to get into a more advanced level? So for example, I meditate nowadays 1 hour per day, at least. I've gone to meditation retreats, like some really hardcore ones, like 2 10-day meditation retreats where you basically meditate 8 hours a day. You're not allowed to read, to write, to exercise. Like I hate that, I go crazy. And like basically all you do is you just meditate 8 hours, eat, not even a lot of that, and you just walk and stare at the ground. You're not allowed to have eye contact with other people. So Marnix did that a few weeks ago, he knows. And so, I've done a lot of that, and people ask me like, how much more have you improved? What are the benefits? What do you reap if you do this really hardcore? Well, if you really meditate for 3 years, I would say, for a couple of years, if you really stick at it, if you really like meditate every day, morning and night, your life can get really, really freaking miserable. Elise is probably like, well, why did I bring him? Like that's not inspirational. What do I mean? Well, at first it's gonna get really miserable because for me, if you really want to go deep into the mind, deep into the core of who you are, it can get pretty painful. It can get pretty uncomfortable because it's basically like having a deep surgery into your mind and there's no anesthetic. And what happens is if you go really deep, you'll find this really dark room inside of you. And in that room, there's a lot of things that you'll find that you won't like at all. A lot of demons, a lot of insecurities, a lot of things you've done in the past, and you realize, holy cow, I did that? Like, I'm an awful person. Things you feel guilty about. And basically a lot of things, for me, this dark space, some people call it subconscious, at least calls it your inner child. Yeah. My friend Panos calls it your monkeys. He has a really cool theory about that. He can talk to you about that later. But basically, it's kind of a combination of all that. You'll find this really animalistic sides of yourself, because we're animals, we evolved from animals, so it's not a pretty place. And what most people do is, when they get that first glimpse behind the curtain and see all that, pretty common, they're gonna run away, because it is scary, it is intimidating, and you don't like to see that part of yourself. That's or not even more. Yeah, because it's not that pretty. But if you keep on taking peeks, and if you slowly start getting into that room, you kind of get, it's sort of like a kid, when you were a kid and you had this, the Luna Park, and you had this like really scary rides. I don't know, in my hometown we called it the Castle of Horror. So like, when you're a kid, you go the first time in there, and you're like really scared, and you're like, holy shit, like, but then for some reason you kind of want to go again inside, so you kind of get used to it, and you kind of enjoy the thrill in a weird way, because you discover a lot of things about yourself. So slowly you get used to that, and if you're courageous, that's when you really start discovering yourself. And for me, that's when your life really begins, when you really start to get to know yourself. For me, once you hit that tipping point, it's like all of your life was black and white till then, and after that you're like sort of like in IMAX, like suddenly like it's a completely different experience, and you realize that you're basically the protagonist in this movie that has a lot of potential, that can become something pretty great. And you start to understand that you can manifest things in your life, you can change things, you're not this limited version of yourself that you always thought you were. You can change your mind. We see this even with studies nowadays, you can really have a big effect on your mind through meditation. So what you realize is that you are the hero of your story, and just like every movie and every story, the hero goes through trials, through difficult things, through hard emotions, through great adventures, So it's up and down, it's still uncomfortable a lot of times, but you realize also that you can experience this in a more graceful way, because you realize that, okay, although this is you, the protagonist on the screen, it's also a projection of you. So you realize that you can also detach a little bit from that when things get really rough, and you can sort of like sit in the audience like you are now. And you sit in the audience and you can see that movie, and you can see the projection of you. So in that way, it's still emotional, you'll still go through emotions, but you can detach a little bit, and you can experience everything, the good things, more deeper, and the difficult things a little bit more gracefully. So you're not overwhelmed, it's still difficult and emotional, but you can do it in a more graceful way. And once you do that, you start, sitting in the audience and observing. You also start looking at other people next to you. And some of these people, everyone is watching his movie, and a lot of them are screaming. A lot of them are in a lot of pain. And you start having compassion for other people. You start realizing, that everybody is having his own struggles. And you start, okay, you understand. So, yeah, that's why he is an asshole to me. That's why she is, a bad person or this and that. So you start building compassion, and you understand that, we all basically want to be happy, and we just struggle. So to summarize all this, life is going to be always hard, no matter what you do. Meditation will help you go through it in a more graceful way. You'll appreciate more the happy moments. You'll be able to deal a little bit better with the difficult moments. And you realize that, when I lost my leg, when I had my amputation, and the first time I looked down and I was missing a piece of myself, it was really easy for me. Why? Because I was in that really balanced state. I had just woken up. I had just realized that this is my movie. And I realized that, my leg is not me. I detached. And, okay, I'm missing a leg, but in a way, although I'm missing a part of me, I've never been more whole in my life. So that was like a weird, controversial experience.
Now you can see how the dog feels.
Yeah, so what I want to say basically is that life is going to be hard, and life is going to take pieces out of you. It's going to feel as if, a lot of times, like a girl or a boy will take a piece of your heart and break it. Or maybe someone you love, someone that really believed in you, someone amazing in your life will die, and a piece of you, a part of you will die with you. But it's going to be difficult, but through meditation, you're going to go through it a little bit more gracefully, and you're going to appreciate the difficult times and the good times. That was all. Thank you.
Today, you can choose where we can stay. It's undeniable. Like way above the waves, take me where I got to be when the tide is high. And carry me today, you can choose where we can stay. It's undeniable. Yeah, life is so wonderful. I pictured this the living sin.